In one of my previous gardening videos, I said I was done with the summer garden, tarp it. So it's fall now, here we are first week of April, and it's time to plant the fall garden. So these two beds right here behind me were the ones that we tarped for the video. And as you can see, the heat from the sun down on the landscape fabric that we had covering these beds have completely killed out all the grass and all the weeds. We're going to leave all that in there and we're going to use it as a mulch cover. This bed, I've determined this year, is going to be my onion bed. All the other beds are what we're going to put our transplants in, which you saw me preparing in one of our previous videos when it was the hottest day of the year. We were preparing to plant out this fall garden by starting our seeds. So I've went around in each one of the beds, I've put 10 holes. So in each one of these 10 beds, I went around and I've prepared 10 holes. 2 feet apart. These are 10-foot beds. They're 5 foot wide. And we put, every 2 feet, we put a hole all the way down this side of the bed. And then over here, every 2 feet, we've put a hole on this side of the bed. So we got 5 holes over 10 foot. Basically, I just take my shovel and I go around in like a planting hole, like I was going to put a 1-gallon nursery pot, and I just turn the dirt and get it ready. One of the things I did is I went down to my chicken pen and I got a shovel full of chicken dirt out of the bottom of my pen. And I say it's chicken dirt because essentially it's where the chickens roost at night. They poop on the ground and they turn it through when they're scratching. And there's some dirt in there along with all that chicken poop. And I put 1 shovelful right on top of each one of these holes. I've already done that one, so I'm not actually going to put that in there. But then I take my shovel all the way down and just turn all that chicken poop under. And I don't have to thoroughly work it in. As long as you turn it one time, that's good enough. So we've prepared our holes here. Over the summer, I was given a big round bale of hay that was cut off the property that we now own where our orchard is planted out. That hay was over 1.5 years old when it was given to me, and so it wasn't going to be used for cattle food or livestock food anymore. So my neighbor grabbed a little bobcat and brought over that bale of hay. And I've taken some of that hay and I've put a nice 3 or 4 inch layer of hay down in this bed. And I'm going to go back to all my beds and each one of them are going to get mulch. So I've just found out that my plants do way better if they are covered with mulch. Holds a balanced moisture in there, and the plants just seem to do a lot better. So I got my planting hole here, and we're going to come back and each one of these planting holes is going to get turned over, and then we're going to start planting out all those transplants. It was so hot this summer, and we only got 3 inches of rain all summer. It was really, really dry in these beds. I had to come out the night before and water everything down. So everything that you see right here, is, like I previously said, was from the weeds that had grown up over the summer. Just tarped it, let the heat and the dryness kill all the grass, and we're going to go ahead and plant our transplants out, but we're also going to come back and we're going to put a nice 3 or 4 inch layer of mulch over that just to keep any weed seeds from trying to come back up. As long as we can keep a nice thick mulch over it, we shouldn't have any problems with weeds ever coming back. But every year we're always going to have to refresh the mulch in this garden. So that means I'm always going to have a steady supply of something to mulch with. So I'm going to be looking for hay, maybe even, well, I'm not going to use wood chips, not in these beds. But you could use wood chips to mulch with. I don't really like using grass. I don't like the concept of bringing grass seeds into the garden, even though all these weeds are loaded with seeds. I just don't want to bring any more in. So I'm always going to be looking for some type of hay to put over these mulches. Out of all of our transplants we've got more transplants than we have raised bed. Well, these aren't raised beds. These are just framed off in-ground beds. We've got more transplants than we have places to plant. We also have an in-ground garden out in our new pasture out there. And so everything that doesn't go in here is going to go out there. The reason I like planting this is because it's real close to the house. We can step out our back door and come out here and keep it watered and keep it tended to. It's also got a fence all the way around it. So any kind of deer that we have that come through the yard at night, they're not going to be able to get in here. And with our dog and with our cats and the property's fenced, really becoming less and less of an issue is having deer in the yard. But it seems to keep things out of the garden, having the fence all the way around it, and so that's why I like having this garden. Okay, we've changed over to Green Magic broccoli. But if you notice, at the end of this bed are 2 tomato plants. We did a late planting of tomatoes in hopes to get a fall harvest or late summer harvest. But summer's over, so I guess it's a fall harvest. But they're currently blooming and they've got little tomatoes on them. We've got about another month before frost, so hopefully we'll get a little harvest. Now, if you notice, there are multiple plants in this pack. I'll wait, give it a week. Let's see which one dominates. And along the way, there'll be things come along and eat these things, or they'll die off for whatever reason. And so I'll give it a good week to get established, and then I'll come back and I'll thin these out to one plant. Hardest thing in the world to do is to thin your plants. But you have to thin your plants or you will never get the harvest that you intend to get. Now we're going to move on and do the Marathon broccoli. Marathon has a later maturing date than the Green Magic. So when we get our Green Magic harvested, about 2 weeks later we can come back and harvest our Marathon. But both of those varieties do very good. So if you only want to choose one variety, yeah, it's up to you. They both do very well for me, and that's why I'm planting both varieties. If you notice about this bed, I've got some holes that are missing. They're actually just covered up. I had to rake back straw in one area so that I could amend my soil for that planting hole, cover that up, and then move on and do the one right beside it. So that's why you see not enough holes here, but they're there. Just have to pull all the mulch back to get to it. Now we're moving on to twister cauliflower. All right, the next thing we're going to move on to is Ruby Perfection cabbage, Green Boy cabbage, Stonehead cabbage, Dwarf Blue kale, and Dazzle Blue kale. And that's going to go in the next beds that we have here. Like I said earlier, whatever we don't have room for is going to go out in our other garden, out where we risk deer and rabbits. Most everything that we had transplants to put out for, we actually squeezed into the garden. So the only thing that we've got left that's going to go out into our orchard garden out there is some new transplants of some Georgia collards, some cauliflower, and rutabagas. Out in the garden out there, I also went ahead and planted my mustard, rutabagas for our mass harvest. So we got all that going on. Next thing to do is we're going to fix up some fish emulsion. We're going to water in each one of these transplants. Now, a little word to the caution, if you're going to use fish emulsion, beware. Creatures love this stuff. And I actually had just planted out a brand new kiwi berry vine out in my orchard, and I drenched it with some fish emulsion, and that night something dug that thing up and ended up losing my entire plant. I hated it. I got to replace it, but I'll take a little caution next time and maybe even put a trap out there to maybe get rid of whatever is out there digging my stuff up. I can't have that. All right, so let's mix up the fish emulsion. I used the Alaska fish emulsion, and I bought this at the big box store. I'll let you guess which one because they all have a little different price. Give it a nice couple of glugs there. And we're going to bring this up to about 4.5 gallons of water just for that amount of fish emulsion I put in. I'm not going to mix it very strong because these are weak little transplants, and I don't want to end up burning them, giving them too much to feed on at one time. We'll give them this. Next week we'll bring up the concentration a little bit more, and then we'll do that a few times all the way up until harvest. Now I'm just using a leftover coffee container, and I'm going to give each one of these little plants just a little dose of this. I'm not going to give them the whole container, but just enough to water them in, so I can get probably 3 waterings out of this. Okay, we get them all watered in. The last thing we got to do is bring the mulch up to the plant to kind of hold that moisture in there. So I've got some beds that I still got to bring hay out to. We're going to go ahead and get all these mulched really heavy. We're going to give you an update, so stay tuned for the update. All right, not a lot has been going on. We do have some new growth. The plants are definitely looking way more stood up. You can actually tell they're actually growing. Got some new growth coming out right at the top there. So all that is looking good. And there's some more new growth right at the top of that purple cabbage. And some of the broccolis are starting to put on some new growth right towards the top. It actually, we had a drop in temperature the last day or two. It's done cooled off. The high is about 73 right now. So it's feeling good. The plants are reacting towards the cooler weather really well. The only thing is, I had something eat 1 or 2 of them, just the stem. So I'm thinking maybe I have a caterpillar in here that did that damage. Here's what our tomatoes are looking like. I've got some little tomatoes coming on here. We're still about 3 or 4 weeks from frost, so maybe we can get just a couple of tomatoes before a frost or a freeze hits. But these are looking nice, you know, for a late fall harvest of tomatoes. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Farmington Famous. We'll see you on the next update.